Imagine applying for like a license to rent out a house,
Yeah.
right? And the government demands to know if your business partner's spouse has a 10-year-old conviction for fraud.
Right. Yeah.
And if they do, you could literally be legally barred from running your business. I mean, it sounds like the vetting process for some high-level intelligence operative.
Totally. But we're actually just talking about becoming a landlord.
Exactly. So welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today, our mission is to navigate what we are calling the gauntlet. We're looking at the really intense legal maze of property management in England.
Yeah, specifically the process of securing an HMO license, so a house in multiple occupation.
Right. And we've pulled together this massive stack of legislative sources for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at Part 2 of the Housing Act 2004, the Homes Act 2018, and like multiple layers of management regulations.
It is a lot of reading.
It is. But we're doing it to decode exactly what it takes to legally become and honestly remain a landlord. Because, as you were about to see, this is not just about handing over a set of keys and collecting rent.
No, it really isn't. I mean, when most people think about, professional certifications or business licenses, they picture a fairly linear process.
Like getting a driver's license or something.
Yeah, exactly. You submit your paperwork, you pay a fee,
Right.
Maybe you pass a basic safety inspection, and boom, you are given the green light. But the legislation governing shared houses, it fundamentally rejects that linear model.
Right.
We are looking at a regulatory environment that just ruthlessly interrogates not just the physical geometry of your property, but like your moral character, your financial stability, your entire social network.
It was fascinating, because we constantly hear stories in the news about terrible landlords operating unsafe houses. We all know those stories.
Oh, yeah. Slum landlords.
Right. But when you actually sit down and read the laws they're supposed to be navigating, you really have to wonder how anyone gets approved in the first place.
It's a miracle anyone passes.
Seriously. So let's start right at the threshold. To even get to the starting line, you have to survive Sections 63 and 64 of the Housing Act 2004.
Right, the gateway.
Yeah. Section 63 outlines the application itself.
Yeah.
And right away, there is this mechanism built in to prevent you from doing this quietly. Like, the law literally states you must notify all relevant persons about your application.
Yeah, and the phrasing relevant persons might sound, a bit bureaucratic, but it carries an immense amount of legal weight.
How so?
Well, the council requires you to officially declare your intentions to anyone with a legal or financial stake in the building.
Okay.
So that means your mortgage lender, the freeholder if you own a leasehold, any co-owners, and sometimes even the neighbors.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics of that, because why does the local council care if my bank knows I'm renting out a few extra bedrooms?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm paying my mortgage every month, shouldn't that just be between me and the bank?
You'd think so, right? But the risk profile of an HMO is entirely different from a single-family home.
Okay.
Standard residential mortgages usually have these really strict covenants prohibiting you from turning the property into a multi-let shared house.
I see.
Yeah, historically, the industry had this huge problem with property owners converting family homes into densely packed student houses or young professional shares without ever telling their lenders.
Because an HMO mortgage is way more expensive.
Right. It's more expensive and it's much harder to get. So by legally mandating that the applicant notify the lender during the council application, the government effectively deputizes the bank to police the landlord.
Wow.
Yeah. If you apply for an HMO license on a standard mortgage, your bank finds out and they can literally call in the entire loan immediately.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It forces complete transparency right out of the gate.
Right.
You can't operate a shadow business because the application itself forces you to expose your plans to your creditors.
Exactly. You're out in the open.
So let's say you've done that.
Yeah.
You have the right mortgage. You've notified the freeholder. Your application is fully on the line.
Yeah.
We move to the council's grand decision under Section 64.
Yeah.
This is like the ultimate statutory checklist the local authority uses. And looking through it, they have to confirm the property is physical suitable and that you are the appropriate person to hold the license.
Standard stuff so far.
Right. But then there's this requirement that the management arrangements must be satisfactory. And wait, hold on, I have to push back here.
Sure.
If my building is perfectly up to code, the fire alarms work, and I have a squeaky clean criminal record, why is the council digging into my management structures and my cash flow? I mean, that feels like significant government overreach into a private business.
I get that. It totally does feel invasive when you first read it, but there is a very deliberate rationale there.
Okay, what is it?
Under Section 66, subsection 6, the council is actually compelled by law to evaluate the financial viability of your operation. They aren't just looking at the building today, right? They are modeling its future.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A well-intentioned person with a pristine, newly refurbished property can still be outright rejected if their funding model is highly leveraged.
Because if the business model requires, like, 100% occupancy just to cover the massive mortgage payments, there is zero capital reserve.
Exactly the problem. If a major issue occurs,
Like the roof caves in.
right, or say the commercial boiler catastrophically fails in the middle of January, the landlord needs instant access to thousands of pounds to fix it.
And if they don't have it, the tenants freeze.
Exactly. If the council's financial stress test shows the landlord doesn't have the cash flow or the reserves, they know that building is going to decay into a slum within a few years.
Wow.
So they are actively legislating against future disrepair by scrutinizing your spreadsheet today.
Okay, that actually is pretty brilliant. So you pass the financial stress test, your spreadsheet is solid. Now the council turns its attention to the physical building.
This is where it gets crazy.
Yeah, we're moving from financial abstractions into the ruthless physical geometry of Section 65 and Schedule 4. This is where, like, literal millimeters can mean the difference between a legal bedroom and an illegal closet.
Yeah, Schedule 4 is where the law becomes incredibly granular. To prevent overcrowding, the legislation lays out these hard, non-negotiable statutory room sizes.
Right.
For a single adult or anyone over the age of 10, a bedroom must be an absolute minimum of 6.51 square meters.
6.51.
So specific.
Very. And if you're housing two people over 10 in one room, it jumps to 10.22 square meters. And for a child under 10, the minimum is 4.64 square meters.
You know, I was actually talking to an HMO surveyor recently, and they described their job as playing a high-stakes game of real-life Tetris.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Because they were explaining how they literally take these laser measures and map out the exact footprint of a room, but then they have to subtract the awkward space taken up by, like, a chimney breast or the interior footprint of a built-in wardrobe.
Yeah, when I'm doing those HMO surveys or reviewing them, it's literally like that. But unlike Tetris, you can't just clear lines to make space.
Right, you're stuck with the bricks. You're stuck with the permanent architecture of the building. And the law is absolute. If that laser measure comes back at 6.4 square meters for a single room,
It's a tiny bit off.
that is a legal failure. The council will legally prohibit that room from being used as sleeping accommodation.
That is wild.
But the floor space isn't even the most difficult trap. Schedule 4 contains this absolutely fascinating caveat regarding ceiling height.
Oh, yes, I read this.
Any part of the floor area where the ceiling height is less than 1.5 meters simply does not count toward a total floor space.
Okay, let's visualize that for the listener. Let's say I buy this gorgeous Victorian house, right?
Okay.
And it has this massive, sprawling attic room with a lovely, dramatic sloping roof. I could put a double bed in there, a desk, a huge wardrobe. But you're telling me that because the angle of the roof cuts the ceiling height down near the edges, half my floor space legally just ceases to exist.
That is precisely how the law operates.
Wow.
The room might feel incredibly spacious to the human eye, but the legal, usable floor space is restricted to the area where a person can comfortably stand or move.
Why are they so strict about that?
This spatial policing is basically designed to ensure basic human dignity. Because historically, unscrupulous landlords would cram beds deep into the eaves of a roof, literally forcing tenants to crawl into their sleeping spaces.
Oh, that's awful.
Right. So the 1.5-meter rule creates a universal, undeniable standard for human habitation.
So what happens if a council inspector walks through my property, uses their little laser measure, and finds that my attic room falls short? Or, like, that I don't have enough shared bathrooms for the number of tenants? Do they just stamp the application rejected and throw me out of this system?
They certainly have the power to refuse the license entirely.
Okay.
However, the legislation provides them with a far more aggressive tool.
More aggressive than rejection.
Yeah. They can grant the license, but attach severe statutory conditions to it. So, the council can legally mandate that you must move a structural stud wall to expand a bedroom's footprint, or install an entirely new bathroom.
You're kidding.
And they will give you a strict deadline, often 6 to 18 months to complete the construction.
So they're essentially dictating the literal architecture of private property. They aren't just enforcing rules, They are redesigning your house.
Exactly. And if you fail to execute those mandated renovations within the time frame, you are in breach of your license, which opens up just a whole new realm of legal trouble.
Okay, so let's say you survive the physical inspection. Your rooms are massive, your ceilings are high, the fire safety systems are absolutely flawless. You have a perfect building.
Okay, dream scenario.
Right. But a safe building can become a nightmare overnight if the wrong person has the keys.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us to Section 66, the fit and proper person test. So the council shifts from being a building inspector to basically a background investigator.
This is a crucial transition in the legislation. Under Section 66, the local authority must evaluate whether the proposed license holder and the property manager are morally and legally fit to exercise power over tenants.
Morally fit.
Yeah. The council digs into your past, looking for any evidence of offenses involving violence, sexual offenses, or illegal drugs.
Okay. Yeah.
They also look at unlawful discrimination and any previous business practices, and they heavily scrutinize any past contraventions of housing law.
Now, I think everyone listening would agree that we don't want someone with a history of violent crime holding the master keys to a shared house.
Of course.
That's obvious. But the text of the law specifically includes offenses involving fraud and dishonesty.
It does.
Let's really look at the implications of that.
Mhm.
Are you saying that a 10-year-old financial misdemeanor, say a minor tax fraud or some deceptive business practice completely unrelated to real estate, could legally strip someone of their ability to be a landlord today?
It absolutely can, and honestly, councils frequently reject applications on these exact grounds.
Rarely. A decade old.
Yeah. To understand why, you have to look at how the law views the power dynamics inside an HMO.
Okay.
Tenants in shared housing are considered inherently vulnerable. You have multiple unrelated individuals sharing intimate spaces, kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, often on very tight budgets.
Right. They're just trying to get by.
Exactly. And a landlord holds immense power over their physical safety, their financial deposits, and just their daily living conditions.
So the logic is that if you have demonstrated a willingness to defraud someone in a completely different context, the state views that as a fundamental character flaw.
Yes.
You are deemed a high risk for exploiting vulnerable tenants, so the state just removes your ability to be in that position of trust.
That is the exact legal philosophy. Being a landlord is treated not just as an investment vehicle, but as a heavily regulated position of trust.
That's intense.
But wait, the scrutiny doesn't start with your personal record.
Oh, no.
The aspect of Section 66 that often catches applicants completely off guard is subsection 3.
Yes, the guilt by association clause. When I read this in the sources, it genuinely shocked me. The law states that a landlord can fail the fit and proper test based on the actions of associated persons.
It is one of the most powerful and sweeping pieces of drafting in the entire Housing Act.
Let's create a hypothetical scenario to understand just how far this reaches.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's say I have a completely clean record, I have never committed a crime, I have perfect credit, and I run my properties flawlessly.
Model citizen.
Right. But I am in a joint venture business partnership with someone. And it turns out my business partner's spouse is a rogue landlord who has been convicted of severe housing breaches on completely separate properties that I have literally nothing to do with.
Okay.
Can the council look at that web of connections and deny my license?
The council has the absolute statutory authority to do exactly that.
That is insane.
The law allows them to look behind the curtain at the entire network of individuals involved in running the property or even associated with the people running the property.
Oh.
So if your business partner is married to a banned landlord, the council can conclude that the banned individual might exert influence over your property through their spouse.
So just because I associate with someone who associates with someone who broke the law, my entirely separate business can be shut down.
It sounds incredibly harsh, but it is designed to close a massive historical loophole.
What was the loophole?
Well, before these laws were tightened, a rogue landlord who got banned from the industry would simply transfer the property into their spouse's name or set up a new shell company with a friend who had a clean record and just continue running the unsafe house from the shadows.
Oh, of course.
Subsection 3 allows the council to sever those shadow networks entirely. And we should also mention that the Housing and Planning Act 2016 introduced the National Database of Rogue Landlords and Property Agents, along with banning orders.
Right, the blacklist.
Exactly. If anyone in your immediate network is on that list, the council will find out there is very little place to hide.
Okay, let's take a breath.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You've outed your business to your mortgage lender. You've passed the financial stress test. You've somehow negotiated the 1.5-meter ceiling rules.
Yep.
You and everyone you know have survived a background check that rivals an intelligence agency.
You've run the gauntlet.
You ran the gauntlet. The council finally hands you the piece of paper. You are an officially licensed HMO landlord. You can finally just sit back, manage your property, and collect your passive income.
Right. Section 63 through 66 merely gets you to the starting line. The moment that license is granted, you enter a whole new regulatory environment.
The ongoing daily gauntlet of the management regulations.
Exactly.
We're looking at the management of houses in multiple occupation regulations from 2006 for England, and the similar 2007 regulations for Section 257 HMOs, which are essentially just poorly converted blocks of flats.
Right.
And these regulations lay out daily duties that are astonishingly specific.
They really are. The intention here is to ensure that the high standards verified during your initial application do not slip over the 5-year lifespan of the license.
Okay, give me some examples.
Well, for instance, the manager must prominently display their name, address, and telephone number in the common areas.
Like on a notice board in the hallway.
Exactly. You cannot be an absentee landlord hiding behind a P.O. box. Your tenants must have immediate access to you.
And the physical maintenance rules go far beyond just keeping the roof from caving in. The manager must keep all fire escapes perfectly unobstructed at all times.
It's non-negotiable.
And they must maintain all common parts of the building. And the legislation actually defines what a common part is down to the micro level. We are talking about stair coverings, banisters, handrails, window sills, and light fittings.
Yes.
If a light bulb goes out in a shared hallway, it is a statutory failure if the manager doesn't replace it promptly.
And alongside the physical maintenance, there is a heavy administrative burden. The most notable is the 7-day rule.
Oh yeah, the 7-day rule.
If the council sends a written request demanding to see the latest gas appliance test certificate or the fixed electrical installation certificate, the manager must supply it within exactly 7 days.
Let's talk about that timeline. Why 7 days? I mean, why not a standard 30-day business term?
Because gas and electrical safety in a densely populated building isn't a bureaucratic formality. Right? It's an immediate life safety issue.
Right. People who die.
Exactly. The council is assuming that if you are managing the property properly, you already have those certificates on file. If you need 30 days to scramble and find an electrician to retroactively test the building, you are already failing your legal duty.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If you adopt a fragile pet, you are legally liable if it bites someone, even if someone else left the gate open. Let's apply that to a landlord.
Okay.
The regulations demand perfect maintenance, but a landlord doesn't live in the house. What happens if a tenant actively damages the property? Let's say a tenant gets drunk on a Saturday night and kicks in a banister on the staircase. The landlord didn't break the wood. Are they legally on the hook to the council under these regulations?
It's a really complex dynamic. The law does recognize that tenants have responsibilities. Regulation 11 outlines occupier duties.
Okay, so the tenants are regulated too.
Yes. Tenants are legally required to store their waste properly, comply with higher safety instructions, and crucially, they must not hinder or frustrate the manager in the performance of their duties.
So kicking in a banister is a clear breach of the tenant's duty.
Absolutely.
So the landlord can just point to Regulation 11 and tell the council, hey, the tenant broke it. It's not my problem.
Not at all.
No.
No, and this is the crux of the legal burden. The law requires a standard of maintenance that is reasonable in all the circumstances.
Okay.
The manager can and should pursue the tenant financially for the cost of repairing the damage. But the ultimate statutory burden for the safety of the building, especially a fire escape route like a staircase, rests entirely on the manager's shoulders.
Wow. Okay.
You cannot use the tenant's bad behavior as a shield against your legal duty to the state. You must fix the banister immediately to ensure the other 5 people in the house are safe.
Because the immediate physical safety of the occupants supersedes the dispute over who caused the damage.
Precisely.
The landlord is left holding the leash.
Exactly. And if you fail to maintain those standards or, fail to produce those certificates within 7 days, the consequences are catastrophic for a business.
We aren't just talking about a warning letter, are we?
Oh, no. Local authorities can issue massive civil financial penalties as an alternative to criminal prosecution. We are talking about fines of up to £30,000 per offense.
Per offense. 30 grand.
Yeah.
Or they can deploy what I honestly think is the most terrifying financial weapon in the entire legislative stack, the rent repayment order.
That RRO.
Yeah. Under Section 73 of the 2004 Act, which was expanded by the 2016 Act, if you operate an unlicensed HMO, or if you commit severe breaches of the management regulations, the Housing Tribunal can order you to refund up to 12 months of rent back to the tenants.
The financial impact of a rent repayment order cannot be overstated. It is devastating.
Let's do the math on that for a second. If you have a six-bedroom house, right, and you are collecting, say, £3,000 a month in total rent,
Okay.
a tribunal can order you to hand back £36,000. But during that entire year, you still had to pay your commercial mortgage, your insurance, your maintenance costs.
Yep.
You were essentially forced to operate the building at a massive loss, literally working for free for an entire year.
It is designed to be deeply punitive. It completely removes any financial incentive for running a substandard property.
And doesn't stop there.
No. Ultimately, under Section 70, the council holds the final trump card: revocation.
Just pulling the plug entirely.
Exactly. If they decide that your repeated breaches mean you are no longer a fit and proper person, they can simply revoke your license. And your legal right to collect rent from multiple tenants evaporates entirely.
Wow. So let's zoom out and look at the whole picture here.
Yeah.
We started today by looking at what initially seemed like a stack of incredibly dry, bureaucratic housing laws.
Very dry.
Right. But when you unpack the mechanics of how these laws actually operate in the real world, you realize the immense, almost crushing legal weight behind shared housing.
Yeah.
It begins with the enforced transparency of Section 63, legally forcing landlords to expose their plans to their banks. It moves into the rigid spatial policing of Schedule 4.
Right, a Tetris game.
Yeah, where the angle of a Victorian roof or a missing millimeter of floor space can render a bedroom entirely illegal.
It then subjects the individual to a level of moral scrutiny that is, frankly, astonishing for the private sector.
It really is.
The fit and proper test doesn't just look at violent crime.
Yeah.
It evaluates your financial honesty. It maps out your entire network of business associates to determine if you can be trusted with vulnerable people.
And finally, the ongoing daily gauntlet of the management regulations, which I think prove unequivocally that being an HMO landlord is not about passive income.
Not at all.
It is a highly regulated, active service profession where the legal burden of safety is a constant daily obligation.
The takeaway here really reframes how we view our neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
Whether you are currently renting a room in a shared house, or you're analyzing a potential real estate investment, or you're just curious about the invisible rules that govern our cities, you now understand the vast legal architecture that exists just to ensure a shared house is safe and fairly managed. There is a massive machinery of enforcement operating behind the front door of every legal HMO.
It definitely changes how you look at the houses on your street.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, building on everything we've uncovered today. We have explored the sheer density of these requirements. The rigorous financial stress tests, the laser-measured spatial traps, the deep-dive background checks into your personal life and your spouse's, and the constant looming threat of massive financial ruin through rent repayment orders.
It's a lot.
It is an incredibly high, almost hostile barrier to entry. So the question is, with this ever-expanding web of legislation, are these laws inadvertently making it impossible for independent, everyday people to be landlords? By trying so aggressively to regulate the bad actors out of existence, are we legislating ourselves into a future where only massive, faceless corporations and institutional investors have the capital, the legal teams, and the sheer resources required to run the gauntlet? It's something to think about the next time you see a room to let sign.